All right, I will admit that as I was trying to take notes and organize, I got really wild in my note taking and analyzing these articles. So ignore the notes; they'll might be for me in the future. They're a little in depth, but I will try to make this short and sweet. Okay, first looking at the um, oh, there we go. Okay, first looking at the notes from the Wiggins video at Vanderbilt and understanding by design. I like the idea that it can't make bad teachers better. It's not a fix-all. It's just the focus for teachers to be more prepared for teachable moments. As we go through, I like the personal note of having students self-assess if they're meeting goals for the year. And I'm planning on doing this actually tomorrow. It's the end of our quarter. And I want to see if they recognize what our goals are for the year and what their goals have been for the unit. And I'm creating a Google form for that, and we'll see how my students fare. And I'm afraid that they will struggle with that. I need to be more intentional, and that comes up later in some of the readings. I am. Oh, I also like the idea of utilizing more Socratic questioning in class. I saw that Wiggins in his lecture, that how that could be very useful, a better teaching practice. That's something that I would like to add. So I went through his exercise and I decided that my course is designed to help students become more effective communicators. And this statement encompasses reading, writing, speaking, and listening for each of my classes, regardless of student ages or abilities. And that is a rather broad goal for the course. However, I will utilize things and specific goals within this very broad overview of the course. But if my students understand that my class is all about communication, that is a step in the right direction. Going through here, some more notes. I liked the criteria to decide if something is valuable or not. And which processes are the most valuable, and how does that fit within these 4 criteria areas. I like that breakdown. Continuing to move on, the continuum of assessment, the informal checks, the observation, the dialogue, the quizzes and tests, the academic prompts. This continues and to see if our assessment is valuable and relevant, going as each of these chapters kind of integrate and meld together in my mind. I can see how each of these fit together, and although they weren't created with the other chapters in mind, I can see how this lesson, utilizing these different readings, inform one another. Okay, looking at this integrated curriculum, this was an interesting, I really liked the ability to interpret and analyze our existing standards, and that goes back with our questions. And how do standards or the relevance, the alignment to standards or relevance to students, both are necessary. Is it better to have standards, or is it better to be relevant to students? So I can see how we as teachers must be held to, standards have to be broad. They have to be across the board, and so we need to be held accountable for those, but we also need to help students see the relevance in their lives. The know, do, be chart, I liked that. That's very helpful to unpack specific standards, and as we are designing these courses, have that be a tool that we utilize as we are deciding what our most important learning objectives and our specific goals are. Oh, that's an interesting part. It seems the curriculum map from this chapter begins with standards. It's a much more traditional approach to design. Focus seems to be on coverage of standards, but you see the elements of backward design in the know, do, be analysis of the standards. It's helpful to deconstruct the standard as we complete step 1. So I see that as relevant to backwards design, even though it doesn't specifically reference it. going through here, a personal note talking about setting objectives, communicating objectives. A lot of that goes to visible learning, which is what GWAB is very involved in at the moment, and with John Hattie. And as I continue to read through, a lot of the reference material goes back to John Hattie and his visible learning and clarity in setting objectives and providing feedback. This graphic organizer I really liked. I liked the possibility of, I give students rubrics, we provide peer feedback often, I give feedback, but to be able to see those each together, I would love to see this in practice. I wonder how the partner, the peer feedback, and the individual feedback would differ. I worry that some of my, I think it would take some training to not just reiterate what the original author stated or the feedback from the peer stated it and then just restate that. So I'm interested in seeing this in practice, and I might experiment with this a little bit if time permits. But the teacher feedback, I love the idea of having the learning objective here right along with the feedback from different areas: self-assessment, peer assessment, and the teacher's feedback. So that's something I will utilize in my own classroom. The last thing, the big picture. So going back to our original question, in the big picture chart, standards are listed as design consideration in stage 1. So here you go. Here's our standards right here. The specific goals would be indicated by the far right column, what the final design accomplishes. And so that's why I see that the national standards inform, the national standards inform, and the state standards and the district standards inform what the design accomplishes, our specific goals. So coming here to my final slide, it's important to establish specific goals rather than standards, because the standards are the accountability that it talked about. The focus is on the curriculum and the teachers' influence on the curriculum, I believe. But the specific learning goals go back to the focus on the student and the relevance to their lives outside of our classroom. I see that setting specific goals helps answer the question of what students should be able to do when they leave the course. And so that is my final discussion over the week 5 readings.